Hey, this is Tanya. Welcome to Girl Call Me, the podcast for, by, and about Black women. We hope you enjoy today's conversation as we chat about all things health, relationships, and life. We'll have you laughing, testifying, and most importantly, feeling seen and whole as the beautiful Black woman you are. Now on to the nonsense. So we have another great episode of Girl Call Me. We have a special guest, but before we introduce our special guest, wanted to thank you for listening to our current episodes and interacting and engaging us. We are so grateful.
Yeah. Cowboy Carter was a huge hit. I'm excited about that episode.
Yes, we know. We know. How many times have you actually listened? How many times have you listened to the album? Am I so
I don't
old?
know.
Did I say album?
I
Did
think
I say oh? I just showed my age. Did I say album? Lord help me.
I think I have to wait until they send one of those like year in review things that shows you how many times you listen to something. And I think it's going to be like, so you've listened to nothing else from March
Right.
to April besides Beyonce.
Right. I will say
So,
you encouraged me to take the time to listen to it
okay.
last Saturday. And I listened to it while cleaning. I listened to it while working out. I went on a walk with the dog. And I will say, listening to some of her album like Lemonade and Renaissance, I actually really think it was so interesting. The interludes, the conversation, the Willie Nelsons, the Dolly Partons. I really thought it was brilliant. I thought it was so interesting.
And I'm not paying her to say that. We're not. I mean, there's no.
I think I'm not really a beehive, but I will say I'm an honorary. Did I say it wrong? Please correct me. How do you say it?
It's okay if you're beehive. If you're beehive is what you mean.
I'm a beehive. Well, in addition to, Cowboy Carter being something that you've been focusing on, you've also been right in front of the TV and focused on March Madness, particularly our women.
Yes. Women's March Madness. Yes. Yes. I'm not going to date this episode by saying what games are going to be on. But yes, I am very into women's basketball. And I am so excited about how it is performing. Just in like people are finally watching women's basketball and
Yes.
realizing like it's just basketball. It's just great basketball. And these
Right.
women, I have a special place in my heart too for all the teams that are coached by women, because I think that's extra special to have women in coaching positions and in leadership roles. So yeah, I'm really excited.
I always kind of focus on the economics of it all, but I will say that my wife was looking at the ticket sales and how much ticket sales are versus men's, and it is never $1,000 a ticket. So it was awesome to see that women are finally getting their respect and people are actually
Yes.
showing up and supporting. So that's one thing. And yes, and I have been watching a few of the games. I've been watching, supporting. Come through, Angel. Well, that was great. And, I would love to bring in our guest. We are so grateful to have Dr. Joy Williams with us today. Dr. Williams is an obstetrics and gynecology specialist. She was raised in Southern California. She's the daughter of a retired general surgeon and a registered nurse. She received her undergraduate degree at Stanford and went to medical school at Loma Linda University. Dr. Williams has been in practice for 24 years in Los Angeles. And I love the fact that, when you look at her bio, she's been helping women before conception, during pregnancy and childbirth, through menopause and beyond. And as someone who's going through it, I appreciate the menopause and beyond. So we may not be focused on that in this episode, but she's a mother of 3, a son in graduate school, a son in college, and a daughter. So we want to give a huge welcome to Joy, Dr. Williams. Welcome to Girl Call Me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and it's really an honor to be a guest. And I mean, the bio pretty much sums it up in terms of the big things. I'm a doctor, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. So
I
all
love
of the things that encompass us as women, um, also in sort of like that sandwich generation. As my parents are getting older, I'm also doing a little bit of caretaking in that way too. So, um,
Oh, I
yes,
haven't heard sandwich. Well, maybe
I
I
love
have heard
that.
sandwich
I haven't
generation.
heard
I
that
love that.
too. I haven't heard
maybe
that.
you're not
I've not.
there
I
yet.
think I feel like
We don't have
I
kids. We don't have kids, so I'm like an open-faced sandwich, I
Oh,
guess.
maybe so.
am.
Like a tuna melt.
Right,
I love
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, I guess the idea
Um,
is that you have someone that you're taking care of above you, someone below you, and you're sort of like in between. You're sandwiched in between those
Wow.
two
Yes.
groups that you're taking care of.
Yes.
So taking care of children and parents.
Yes. I love
well,
that.
that's like the perfect way to intro what we're going to talk about today. And I think we when we first met you and had a conversation with you, you were really it just resonated with us right away. You talked about aging well, and you talked in particular about some of the patients that you see and people in your life, and the opportunities to kind of take a step back and focus on what are the things we can do to all age well. So I thank you for talking about that, because I think it's something that we all feel like is really important, and maybe don't think about it until we feel like it's too late, or we feel like suddenly we're trying to do like 35 things to age well in like a
Mhm.
week. So thank you for bringing that up. We were so excited, Joy, when we first met you and you talked about aging well, and that being something that, as you've seen patients over the years, really being, yourself inspired by women who kind of are showing up at different stages in their lives, and clearly have been paying attention to what they're doing over the years, and had some really, important things to share with you. And I thought it'd be important, when I was thinking about the topic, I was thinking about Black Don't Crack, and what a something to live up to, right? But also a whole lot of pressure. And you see in the media people like, Cicely Tyson, who, people in their hundreds who are like looking beautiful and wonderful. To your point about the sandwich generation, for Black women who are taking care of a lot of people, right? How do we make sure that that conversation about self-care is about who we are today, and then also thinking about, who we're going to be? Do you just want to share a little bit about kind of your take on aging well, and what does that mean for you?
Sure. What I would say is you're aging well when your daily choices are intentional, and then they
Mm,
push you to be your best self, to live your
Mm,
best life, whether and to live it physically, mentally, and spiritually at your best. And so you mentioned Cicely Tyson. She's like one of my heroes in this whole idea, because the people that seem to defy what you'd expect for someone their age, those are the people that I pay attention to, because they obviously know and are doing something intentionally to get to that spot. So I listened to Cicely Tyson's book. Another person is Angela Bassett. Like, what
mhm.
is she doing? She's obviously
right.
doing something, and we need to know what it is. And so
Right.
whenever I see people, or women
Yeah.
especially, that are in that special category that I can identify, that's when I start asking questions. And so it's just kind of been a little side hobby, I guess,
I love
because
it.
I'm able to speak to so many women. I can see the differences. There's some women that have just accepted that they're getting a certain age, and they kind of take on that persona. But then there are others that I see who they are just living their life. They happen to be 78, but they are cute. They come with their outfit. They have their belts. They have, like, and they come with
Okay.
some joy and some life. And those are the people that I spend a little more time getting information from them. So I think the first person that had me do this was, I was on a cruise, maybe, like, I would say, like 15 years ago, And it was a cruise mainly for, I would say, people maybe 40s, some early
Okay.
50s.
Okay.
And it was a Black cruise. There were lots of events. Like every day there was an event. There could have been a reception, a dinner, a dance, something on the Lido deck, something here, something there.
Oh,
And
I
so
need
we
to.
went
I
on
need to
the
know.
cruise.
I feel like we need to do this podcast. Is this like at the Essence Festival on the cruise? What is happening? I need to
It was
know.
it was so much fun. And what I noticed, there was this one woman, because we went with a big group. The lady that organized it, it's like lots of her friends, and then their friends tell their friends, and you just sign up and you come on the cruise. But this lady was at every event. She was dressed appropriately with every event, but she was there. She showed up. She was present. She wasn't just sitting there. She was involved and she did everything. And when you talk to her, she was like 78 or something. She was up there. And so I remember asking her, "Well, what is your secret? Like what is it that you're doing?" And she said, and this has kind of become like a mantra for me, but she said, "You've got to keep it moving, baby." And she said it just like that, and I like never forgot that. And that is kind of how I try to emulate her, because that little phrase, it actually encapsulates everything that we need to know about aging well.
We got to
I
keep it
love
moving,
that.
baby.
And she said it with
I might need
attitude.
T-shirts. That's gonna be a new T-shirt. You got to keep it moving, baby. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so funny that you know, the living intentional piece. That part is because I think sometimes it can be hard to live intentional when you're thinking about going back to the sandwich. You're busy,
Yeah.
you're doing things, and sometimes it's so easy to forget that you got to keep moving. And
Right.
how do you tell people, and how do you advise people, and how do you kind of keep that mantra going?
Um, well, I there was a quote that I read recently, which I really love, and if I can get it right here, it says, "Today is the tomorrow that you worried about yesterday." And so when you
I
think
love
about it
that.
like that, every day is going to be your stepping stone for the next day. So what you're
Right,
doing each day is getting you to the next day. And so you have to set boundaries around things so that you can get to that next day in one piece. You know what I mean?
right,
So
right.
a lot about being just present in the moment, but just looking ahead, you have to be kind of concrete and intentional with the things that you're doing. So I don't know if that answered the question fully.
Yeah.
No.
I I was wondering, like, as a physician, what's the balance of, what are your things you need to think about today? And then also having that conversation about where do you want to be in 30 years and how do we make sure you're there?
Well, I think a lot of these things, they're interrelated. So sometimes if someone has back pain, um, maybe their exercise doesn't involve strengthening the opposite muscle, which would be the core. So like you have to talk about
Right.
everything if you can
Right.
in the time. So like it's diet, it's exercise, it's sleep, it's your social connections. Those are the things that when we study those people that have lived longer full lives, they usually have all of those components. And so trying to bring that into a patient interaction really just comes down to those getting to those five things. Like, are you exercising? What's your diet like? How much is your sleep? What is happening there? And then trying to uh, give them help in those different areas if you can.
It's interesting because when we think about aging well, it's usually not something that we're really thinking about. Usually we're thinking, as you said, it's usually about the goalpost is aging. We're just aging. We're complaining about our back. I mean, I know I'm complaining about perimena and trying to, see. And so
You
it's
call it perimeta.
interesting. Perimeta. That's what I'm.
It's
That's
just the
where I'm
name.
at.
It's like a little nickname for it. Okay, I like
Yeah,
it.
because I feel like I'm between it all, so it's perimeta. So, but it's so like practically, and it's also thinking about for those who are not sort of thinking about it in those terms, how do you put it into practical ways? And I know you said, walking and doing that stuff, but how do you, because I also think it also, and we talk a lot about the privilege of thinking about aging well versus thinking about the economics of others who are not able to think about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that part.
Well, when you think about living every day we live, we've aged. So if we
Yeah.
just think about it like in little steps, little broken up pieces, each day is the aging. So if you can live each day like you should, then all of those days are going to be cumulative, hopefully. Sure, life is
Mhm.
in a life and there can be unexpected things that happen, but for what we can control, we can try and do the best that we can with
Yeah.
that.
How have you seen it in your own family? The practicals of you and your family, and and it's obviously you mentioned the cruise was kind of started, but I imagine that has come up in your life too, and talking through with your family and so forth.
Yes, interestingly, you guys have probably heard about the blue zones in the world.
Mm.
No,
Blue zones.
Oh,
explain.
Okay, so blue zones are areas that have been found where they're little pockets where there are people that live to be 100 or people that live
Oh yes,
really
there's one
a
up
lot.
in Loma Linda, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, so Loma
Yes.
Linda
Yes.
is actually where I went to medical school. It's where my
Yeah.
dad went to medical school. And just maybe last month, my dad's mentor, he just passed away. He was 98.
Hmm.
wow.
98. And again, the things that happen in blue zones, people are not actually thinking like, okay, we live in a blue zone. We're going to just keep living to be 100. They're
Right.
not thinking about it. But what they're doing in their communities is what is fostering the long life. And that's the
I
little
saw a
nugget.
documentary. There was a documentary recently about the blue zones, and when you said it, I'm like, and then it connected. But
Yeah,
one of the things I remember it talking about was the connection that many of those who tend to live longer had, whether they're in the same household of their family, they had support, they had family close by, kids living with them. And that was some of the phenomenon on living longer because you have support. And they're playing puzzles, they're doing all sorts of things.
exactly. So yeah, the soundbite, it's good food, good sleep, good friends, plenty of movement, and a sense of purpose. And so a lot of these communities, like I think there's Sardinia, Italy is one, Okinawa, Japan, Loma Linda is one of the ones in the United States. But I think there's also one in South America. I can't remember which one, but like the people in that community, they are walking up a hill every day to,
Yes.
I don't know, pick some food or pick some greens, and then they walk back down to the hill. So it's just part of their everyday life, but they're getting the movement, the resistance training that they need. They're not thinking about,
Right.
oh, I'm going to do resistance training, but it's happening just by default.
Yeah.
And then the diet is important, the sleep, and the engaging in meaningful activities. So yeah, Loma Linda is unique in that way because it's a Seventh Day Adventist institution. Most Seventh Day Adventists don't believe in eating certain meats, so there's not a lot of meat that's being eaten, and so that's again goes back to one of the main things is the diet, is you want to eat mostly whole grain foods, plants, vegetables, and not so much meat. So that happens already in Loma Linda. And then there's a whole medical school there and a like healthy environment. Um, and for instance, my godfather, the one I was telling you about that passed away at 98, he was still very, very involved in his church, even to the day or the week before he passed away. He was very involved, like teaching and so if you're engaged and you're doing something that's meaningful for you, that's going to help with your brain. It helps your brain to stay elastic. And so all of these things, they are all at cumulative. And
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
it's
think
really fascinating, but at the same time, it's not like so surprising that this is
no.
how we do it.
Yeah. What I love about that is it's like it's not rocket science. So often the conversations like exercise, diet, and it stops there. But talking about sleep and sense of purpose is
Mm.
really powerful as like those four coming together. I think that's really beautiful.
Yes, I also watched a documentary about octogenarians, 80-year-olds, and they looked at this all the different communities where they had people that were 80 and older, and many of them were still working. Like there was an older man that was a lawyer. He was still getting all the way dressed with the bow tie, everything,
Okay.
going to work.
Wow.
But
I
in a
love
in a
that.
easy pace. It wasn't like the stressful pace, but he still had something to do that he liked. So all of it's really important, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's what's important to you, that you
Yeah.
find something to do and that you like to do. The other thing they talk about is learning new things,
Mm.
and
Right.
because that forces your brain to make new connections, and our brains can actually continue to grow as we get older. They don't have to shrink away. So I think the main thing is making a choice to age well.
How did that show up in your life? I mean, being a daughter of a physician and a nurse, is this something that you came to more as an adult and as a mother
Um,
yourself?
my like I play tennis, for example, and tennis is one of those sports that actually has been shown to increase your longevity.
Oh,
And
Mm.
when you break it
wow.
down, you can play
Ah,
tennis with anyone, with a stranger. But like you can also play it as you get older. So you don't have to be, Serena Williams but you can play on your level. So growing up, my dad, I learned how to play tennis playing with my dad. And I would go with him and he played with his friends, but I was just there hanging out, and then I started playing too. So that was something that we did every weekend. And I don't know, it's just that was one thing. And then just having health care in our family, and we did eat healthy and things like that. But um, and then I grew up in church, so we went to church a lot. So there was that community as well. So I don't know. I think it's just part. It was just part of my upbringing.
I love the tennis thing. The other thing we learned about tennis during the pandemic is it's a good sport if you need to stay 6 feet away from people and not
Yeah.
have any contact. I remember people just got so into tennis, and so once
Hmm.
they opened up the courts and everything, because it was like people felt comfortable there. Yeah. How did things, talking about COVID, did you see any change when patients started coming kind of back to you after being gone for, a lot of people didn't go to appointments for a year, maybe? That sense of connection and that sense of purpose, and how did you see that impacting people just when they came back and started to see you and their health?
I mean, I could say I saw it for sure with my parents because, as I mentioned, they were very, very involved in their church, and they
Yeah.
would go every week. And then when COVID happened, they were not able to go. They still had church on Zoom, but um, I think especially for my mom who has now some early dementia, I think that's when it really affected her the most. And so that social connection is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at this article about solo agers and the
Oh, yeah.
concept around, as women, who live longer than men tend to, you know, as their partners are passing away, of their children, or they're outliving their children, the impact that can have. And going back to your point about the blue zones, those people had community.
Mm-hmm.
And, as for people who are listening, the idea through the pandemic, what's some tips that you can have for, I mean, I think the thought about being alone, and how can you still stay active and focused and age well?
So I think, again, when we were talking about engaging in meaningful activities, trying something new, if you're doing something new, let's say you're going to do a dance class, that's forcing you to get
Yeah.
outside, go to the dance
Sure.
class, and you're going to meet some other people. And that may be your new crew, so that you're not alone. So you got to step outside, actually, like just get outside the door. And whatever it is that is important to you, that will help, because then you'll have a group of people that feel the same way. Like if you're doing photography or whatever it is, an art
Yeah.
class, like you're gonna meet some more people. And I know you'd sent me that article about Black women without
Yeah.
children who are
Yes. I would be
aging
on that
kids.
track. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I what I would say to that is just find your crew, like find
Yeah.
your people with
People.
whatever activity that you like to do, and then those people will become like family. I mean, I think you and Jessica have that, at least with the Girl Call Me podcast, and then all of your guests and all of those people then
Yeah.
kind of become part of this whole community. So just you have to make community if you haven't like birthed it, I guess I would say. you
Yeah,
know
and it's such an interesting and an important point, thinking about, we're trying to get to the Angela Bassett's, but we got to start this now. We have to start
Mhm.
thinking about aging well in your 40s, in your 50s,
Yeah.
building those community. Things change. I know, families change, but, creating, and I think for me, I've created my own sense of family. My family's in
Mhm.
New York. Me and my wife, we don't have kids, we have fur babies, but, how can you create and build your own family and think about aging well? And you're not, because you can't start thinking about it when you're 80. You
Right,
gotta,
because
No.
and
you're
then, like,
70.
getting to 80, yeah, you have to have done something right along the way to even get to 80.
Right.
Yeah. I think about what you said too about people who think positively about aging well, right? And I remember um when a family member of mine, we were looking at maybe them needing to go into like assisted living. I was like, you know what? When it's time for me to go, I'm going to embrace this. I'm gonna act like it's going back to that college dorms. I'm gonna
Right.
go get my little shower caddy. I'm gonna like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna round my friends up and I'm gonna be like, look, you guys have kids. Let's put a joint plan together that says when we get this age, we're taking over, Sunnyside, whatever community, senior
Right.
community.
Marjan will be in the,
Mah-
you'll be playing that.
Mahjong, mahjong and squash will definitely be in my
I'm sure.
community. But yeah, because I think you're right. The needing to is someone who doesn't have kids. Think about that though. It's kind of real. Like I feel like I need to have a good idea of what do I want, you know, what do I want my life to look like? And also make sure that I articulate that to the people around me because you want to make sure that you're moving in the direction that, I mean, yes, Angela Bassett, but also like the practical part of the aging well too.
Yeah. One of the things in that Cicely Tyson book that because I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to get her secrets in this. And I
Yeah.
listened to it as an audiobook, actually. And one of the things that she said was that she was a vegetarian or vegan for many years, but she tried to have something green with every meal.
Mm.
Mm.
Like,
Practical
that's
tip
easy.
number 1. I feel like
Yeah,
we're gonna go
Practical
through
tip number 1.
that's
it's
Yeah.
easy.
everyone.
That's easy. Like, you can have some spinach in your omelet, or you can put some spinach in your smoothie. Like, so whenever I'm trying to figure out, okay, how am I gonna get something green, I remember that and I think of that, and I'm like, that's easy. And I've told my college son, um, okay, you got to eat some salad or something, like just
Right.
put something green with everything, and I
Right.
keep saying it. And when he came home recently, he's like, I'm trying to eat
Yeah.
better, Mom. Because,
I
in
love
college,
that.
they eat In-N-Out burgers
Burgers
all
and
day.
fries.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
college, everything is beige. You're only
Yes,
eating beige food.
exactly.
Oh god.
So I try and, just keep saying it, and hopefully someone will hear it.
Oh, yeah. I was looking, the Cicely Tyson, her memoir is called Just As I Am. How beautiful of
Yeah,
a title is that? I love that.
yeah, yeah. She was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, you kind of gave us that one. Eat something green.
Yes,
Keep it
another
moving.
Keep
keep
it
it moving.
moving.
Um, another little thing with the diet is eat like a peasant, not a prince. So
Ooh,
what that means,
unpack
I
it.
know, I have to like qualify it a little bit. um, but avoid like rich, highly processed foods, which is what
Mm,
you would think they would serve someone in the royalty, right? Whereas someone that is more provincial, I should say,
mhm.
they would maybe just be digging up something from the ground, like some fresh
Yes.
vegetable, some fresh fruit. So you want to have your whole grains, your fruits and your vegetables, and very small amounts of meat, because okay, it's a little harder to get when you don't have royal wealth. But you shouldn't eat as much as
Right.
the royals would eat. And I read something very interesting about those blue zones. Um, okay, the United States, the per person, it's about 200 pounds of meat each year consumed per person.
Per
Okay,
person?
that's I read that, and
I'm not
then
eating that.
I mean, I guess it's like if you average all like Midwest, like steak and
That's a
potato
lot.
eaters,
That's a lot.
that's a lot, okay? But the people in the blue zones, they ate 20 pounds of meat per person per year. A big difference.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Huge difference.
Them
So
blue
just
zones. I remember watching that documentary thing. I need to study every single thing that these
yeah,
people doing because
yeah,
it was almost and what you're talking about is not overly complex. These
right,
are such simple the green, the walking, planting your own vegetables and your own potatoes in your back, like those are simple things that we can do
right,
to kind of continue and not eating meat for every meal.
exactly. And then also being out in nature. So I did read another something of the people that cultivate a garden in some way, shape, or form, usually
Mhm,
are happier.
mhm,
And
mhm.
there's something about some increase in longevity for those people as well.
Yeah,
And
it
I
it
doesn't
means
believe
that
it.
count,
they're outside in
Tanya.
the sun.
I know what Tanya's gonna say. Tanya, it doesn't count if someone cultivates a garden for you and you just look at it and comment about the garden.
Let's just be clear. Joy. This weekend, I'm actually going to pick up because every spring we plant. I may
Okay.
not be the one doing all of the
You're
planting, but
curating it.
I'm there you go. I'm a curator.
You're curating
Curator.
the garden.
Right, but I
Garden
also love
curator.
it, and then I'll, like, cook everything from the cook. I'm the cook in the family, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna use it and come up with something that's gonna be good, but I love the idea of planting your own because every day there's a recall on something, and I'm
exactly.
always thinking, I can't even eat the spinach out there. I gotta plant my own spinach 'cause at
Mhm.
least I know where it came from.
I recently, maybe in the last 2 years, I purchased this. It's this like hydroponic garden system that
Oh, yeah.
you can grow in your own house. Because I have squirrels at my house, and so if I try to do it in the backyard, they're digging up everything. and something with the pump broke, and so I was really kind of heartbroken about it, and I finally got it back up and running. So
Oh, yeah.
it allows me to, like, I can grow some herbs, things that you kind of
That.
need: green onions, chives, like
Mhm.
little things, kale, collard greens. So I'm really excited to get it up and running again.
I love that
Yeah.
you have it inside. We were just talking in our last episode about how Oprah has her collard greens in the back in her on her farm. And
Uh-huh.
I collards is definitely going to be on my list. It's usually spinach and all sorts of lettuce, but the idea of doing it in your home, that's interesting. I'm
Mhm.
fascinated by
Yeah.
Yeah,
that system.
my mom bought one of those too, then and she does romaine is
Mhm.
able to do romaine, which is nice in the
I
hydroponic, yeah.
may have to
Yeah.
get that. I might have to look that up.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a fun little project to do.
Yeah,
Well, you've given us a few practical tips. And obviously everyone's going to be downloading Cicely Tyson's book. But what
right.
other resources that you go to and use when you're thinking about this?
I am able to sort of assimilate what I know just from science, the learnings of science and
Yeah.
my studies, you know, uh, into there's something called telomeres. Telomeres are sort of like insulators on our chromosomes.
You are
Um,
teaching us today.
So the thing about telomeres is the longer the telomeres are, then those cells are more youthful. Okay, but there are some things that can decrease or shorten the length of the telomeres, and then that leads to cellular death.
Mm,
So
Okay.
again, some of those same things that we've talked about have been shown, like, scientifically, to prevent telomere shortening. So stress, this is another thing that we have to talk about as Black women for sure. Okay,
Okay.
stress.
Mhm.
Stress and so stress can cause inflammation in the body, and then the inflammation can tear up those telomeres. So it can make the telomeres shorten. So sometimes when we take on more than we should as women,
Oh
as
Lord. This is
as
oh
workers,
lord.
whatever,
Don't
it's
please don't have
shredding,
Tanya now,
shredding up
you
our
learned
telomeres.
something else she needs to worry about.
Ooh, I'm gonna be
Her
right. So
telomeres.
I'll be getting that next book that will unpack it. So, but
So
yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know
we
that
all
that's,
do that.
yeah, we all do it, but we have to stop. We
Okay.
Yeah.
have to stop doing that. Like the whole concept of soft life, we got to just get in
Mhm.
there and embrace that soft life.
What is soft life? I'm
Please
feeling
tell
like
us. Right, I'm feeling
Oh,
like we need. Please tell
soft
us.
life.
oh, the soft life is where you're just you take care of yourself in a very supportive way.
Mm, I love
Sometimes
Yeah.
that.
we're walking from place to place, but we're walking so fast. Like we're just like, but why are we walking that fast? Just take a breath.
Mm,
Uh-huh.
Take a breath and just
Oh,
stroll to where we need to be. Like everything doesn't have to be pressured.
right.
yes.
Right.
That's another
Ooh,
T-shirt. Soft life.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I love that concept. But when you're thinking about, because we are so hard on ourselves.
Yes.
When you think about soft life, slowing down, taking a breath, taking a moment, everything doesn't have to be done so quickly. And we can all just take a moment. I love that concept. I absolutely love it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I do too. I also love it in conjunction with what you were saying before about the keep it moving. It's like, how do we even help ourselves in that moment? Like, keep it moving doesn't mean, walking hard, not paying
Right.
attention where you're going. You could keep it moving and in a way where you're living in that kind of, I don't know,
Right.
with that
Because you
lens
have
of the
to
soft life.
rest.
I love that.
You have to rest in order to get to move. Like you
Mhm.
can't
I
move
love that.
constantly.
Right.
So
Yeah. And even if you do, it's not good. I would argue
exactly.
that I mean, this
It's
is
not.
like a therapy session almost. I mean, I feel like, because I feel like I could slow down just a minute, just a
Yes.
Yeah.
little bit. Slow
And so
down
for
just
sleep, like we want to get at least try to get to 7 hours per night.
I'm checking all the boxes on that. I have no problem getting my sleep.
Okay, good. That's perfect.
One sleep. And I don't take naps. I do it all at once. Just go down.
okay.
Tanya, you?
If you do a nap, also limit it to 30 minutes or
Do
less,
you
because
believe in that?
otherwise
I'm
it'll
curious
mess up.
about the nap.
I can't
You've
do a
heard of
nap.
nap. I can't really do nap, but I know that people do it. And I know that there's whole concept of the nap ministry. Um, and no, I've read the book. But what are your thoughts on the naps and how that really your system is that good for? Are naps good for you?
If they're short, only if they're
Okay,
short.
okay,
Like there's
Okay.
some research to suggest if it's longer than 30 minutes, then it's actually not helpful.
Yeah, see, that's where I can't. I mean,
yeah,
I have
mm-mm,
friends who could just close their eyes for like 10 minutes, like sitting
mm-mm.
up
Oh
just
yeah,
to
I
get
can
it
do
in. I'm
that.
like, oof.
You can.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can do
I
that
think
one.
that's a skill. That's a skill. Closing your eyes and just going and coming back, and you're not tired or you're refreshed. That's not me.
Yeah.
It just helps. It helps. I do it sometimes like in my lunch break before the second part of my clinic starts. I'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
So
avoid
Right.
funny.
caffeine late in the afternoon.
Avoid caffeine
Avoid.
late in the afternoon.
Yeah,
And does
like
that
after
include tea?
3.
Okay.
Yes. So if like
Even
in the
green tea?
afternoon you should do like something herbal.
Okay. Okay. You
I
are
am like
laughing.
just naming other caffeine item. Does that
What green
include
tea? I love green
yeah,
tea and I hear
it
it's
includes
so good for
caffeine.
you.
It
Okay.
is, but
We're
just take it in the morning. Do it in the morning.
okay. Oh,
Have some
okay.
peppermint tea in the evening.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor, we're gonna
Switch
be
it up.
calling you. Dr. Willis, we be like, we're gonna be calling you for all the tips. Um, no, I love this, and I think that I think what the most in some ways I got out of this conversation is so many simple things
Simple
can be
things.
done. And really we overcomplicate taking care of ourselves, and really it's spinach, it's a walk,
It's
and
water, it's
it's
sleeping, it's
water.
talking to your friends
Yes, yes, yes.
and
I,
moving
I wanted
moving
to
around.
I want to ask
Moving
you
around.
this, in some ways, we've talked a lot about the different small things, but what are things, what is self care to you? And how do you take care of yourself?
Yes, for me with my job, it's
Yeah.
very physically taxing. When about once a week I'm working in the hospital overnight for a 24-hour shift.
Wow.
That's a lot. And so it's resting, it's taking just caring for myself when I don't feel like when I was younger, in my 30s, I was running all over the place. My kids were small and I don't know how I did what I did back then, but somehow I got through it. But now I if it's too much, I can only do one thing a day instead of three things in a day. Three events. Like I would be all over the place. It was crazy. But now I just try and see, is this going to speak to me? Do I need to be running like
Mm,
this? And if the
Mm,
answer is no, then I can't do it. So it
mm.
yeah.
is making some boundaries. I love to exercise, and so that's one of the main things that I do. I also I like to eat, but I like to eat healthy, and so I try to find ways to make things taste good that like you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, I'm gonna have okra and tomatoes. But I got this recipe from this
Okay.
Cajun chef, and it was really good. I made it yesterday.
Mm.
Oh, I love that.
Before I'd never liked okra, but
I'll be
she
honest, I hate okra, and it's a Caribbean thing. I don't
uh,
know. My grandmother used to always make. Oh, it's the slimy stuff. If you
okay,
could
so that's
remove the
that
slime,
was the thing. Yes, that's what she said. She taught us that um, to remove the slime, have to you have to cook it with something acidic,
oh,
like
Mm.
tomatoes.
Like a
Tomatoes.
tomato.
And
Okay.
then you don't keep
Okay.
stirring it. You just let it sit. Who knew?
Who
Did you
knew?
grow do
Yeah.
you grow okra? No.
No,
Are you
no.
growing this? No.
She
Okay.
is
I don't
like, I am not growing
It's
okra.
store-bought.
I don't know if that one is in the, in the seed catalog for my little
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
No,
I
it's
would
For your
try
not.
it.
hydroponic. Yeah.
But she said
Too
just
intense.
buy frozen okra
Oh,
if you
nice.
want to
Okay.
try it. So I
Okay.
like to find interesting recipes that are tasty. I recently went to a culinary conference. It's called
Oh.
Healthy
Mhm.
Kitchens, Healthy Lives, and it was for healthcare providers to teach us how to cook for ourselves and our families, but then also to share that information with our patients. And it was in Napa, so of course it's an easy
Listen, that sounds like a
going there.
really that
Yeah.
sounds like
Okay, I'm
self-care
going
right
there.
there.
Yeah, that sounds like self-care.
Yeah, and I learned about a type of mushroom that can be prepared to taste like a steak. It literally,
Mm,
and I'm not kidding, it tasted like a steak, a beautiful steak.
mm.
What
And
type of
so
mushroom was this? What type of
it's
mushroom?
called lion's mane. Cooks down, it has this meaty, tear apart sort of texture that's actually delicious if you just cook it, you know, like you would cook a steak. And so there's like videos on YouTube for these kinds of things. Those are things I like to look at as well. So I
I
like to
love that.
experiment with those kinds of things. Um, yeah.
Love this.
Yeah. Those are great tips. Well, first of all, thank you so much. First, there's so many gems you dropped on us today. We're gonna have to like list them all out when but
Right.
like soft living is nice for me and keeping it moving. And just as I am also, all of those three together are gonna be like bobbing around in my head. But we really appreciate you coming to talk to us. I think for so many folks who are listening out there, we've covered topics on stress, we've covered topics um where our friends have been like, "Wait, but I somehow left like without these like practical tips, like help me." And I
It's
think
good.
this episode is so wonderful because it's like we're giving people these actual tips that are
Yeah.
things that you walk away and do. And it's not like you got to go buy these 38 things and then you got to,
Right.
subscribe to this and do
Right.
this. I love that living well piece and living with purpose. So thank you so much for joining us. And we are just so appreciative of your time, and I feel like I have a whole new outlook on my on next few days on my weekend.
Okay,
Soft
perfect.
life. Soft
All
life.
right.
Hey, it's Jessica. Thanks for listening to Girl Call Me. If you have something to add or a story to share, come on over to Instagram or Facebook and join the conversation. Also, make sure you follow and subscribe Girl Call Me. You don't want to miss when we release new episodes. Thanks for listening.